Hi there, Warren here. Welcome back to my channel. Over the last few videos, I've been talking about different parts of the same problem, stopping a roast. Why something can look right but taste wrong, and what actually seems to matter over time. And this felt like a useful way to bring those ideas together. Because the more I've been roasting on the Gene Café, the more I've realised it's not always obvious what's actually driving the result. On the surface, it looks simple. Set a temperature, set a time, and let it run. But the reality is, there's quite a lot going on underneath that. Recently, I was chatting with David. He's been roasting on the Gene Café as well. And he shared a way of thinking about the roast that I thought was really clear. He described it like this. You start with a preheat, then a modest heat phase to dry the beans, then you push the heat towards first crack, and then you ease off the heat through development before you drop the roast. And when you hear it laid out like that, it feels very structured, very intentional, like you're actively shaping the roast all the way through. But when I think about how I've actually been roasting, it hasn't really felt like that at all, not in practice at least. I haven't really been thinking in terms of increased heat here, reduced heat there, partly because on this machine you don't really have that level of direct control. You're setting a temperature, the machine is managing airflow, and the beans are constantly moving. So there's a bit of a gap between what you set and what actually happens. So instead, what I found myself doing is something slightly different. I've been thinking more in terms of how long the roast runs, how quickly it moves early on, what happens around first crack, and where it finishes. And then checking all of that against how the coffee actually tastes. So rather than shaping the roast directly, it's more like setting conditions and then observing what comes back. But here's the interesting part. When I look back at the roasts that worked well and the ones that didn't, I can actually see that same structure in the results. It shows up in the timing, and it definitely shows up in the cup. The better roasts tend to move steadily through drying, build momentum into first crack, and then not carry too much energy into the end. And when that balances off, you feel it straight away. The coffee might feel a bit thin or slightly heavy, or just not quite right. So I don't think these are two different approaches. I think they're actually the same thing, just viewed from different sides. One way is shaping the roast through heat. The other is observing how the system behaves and adjusting based on the outcome. And on a machine like the Gene Café, that difference matters because you don't have direct bean temperature. You don't have full control over airflow, and the system is doing quite a lot in the background. So trying to force a very precise structure can sometimes feel a bit frustrating. Whereas thinking in terms of time, progression, and outcome feels more natural on this setup. At least that's been my experience so far. What I'm still trying to understand, though, is how far you can push that structure before it stops improving the coffee and starts flattening it out instead. Because there does seem to be a line there, and I'm not sure I've found it yet. If you've been roasting on the CBR-301, I'd be really interested to hear how you think about it. Whether you lean more towards shaping the roast, or observing and adjusting, or somewhere in between. If you like this sort of content, and you like these sort of videos, I'd really appreciate a like and a subscribe if you don't mind. It really does help the channel. And thank you so much for watching.